It's that time of the election season. Voting is done and dusted. The EVMs have been locked up, which means the exit poll numbers are out. I know you're eagerly waiting for what the numbers are, so I'll get right to it. Let's start with Gujarat. The poll of polls is giving the BJP 131 seats out of 182. That is 32 seats more than what the party won in 2017. We'll put those numbers up for you in just a bit as well. Now, if these numbers hold on Thursday, we are looking at a massive victory for the Saffron Party. Remember, they were reduced to 99 seats last time, which is the BJP was reduced to 99 seats last time, mainly because of the Patidar agitation. But these exit polls indicate that most voters who had deserted the party last time are back in its fold again. I know everyone had talked about a three-way contest, but looking at these numbers, it's more of a rout. The BJP's biggest win in Gujarat until now was 127 seats, which they won in 2002 post the riots. But if these numbers on our screens hold, the party could end up beating that tally as well. Now coming to the Aam Aadmi Party, they had promised a lot during the campaigning, but these numbers will disappoint Mr. Arvind Kejriwal and company. The exit poll average is giving them just 7 seats in Gujarat. If you account for the margin of error, that could be as low as just 2 seats. And for the Congress, they are projected to get around 41 seats, which is 27 less than their 2017 tally. So all the clamour around anti-incumbency and all the row and jibes have been counterproductive. The Congress has squandered the momentum they had gained in the 2017 elections. So as things stand, it will be a record 7th win for the BJP in the Prime Minister's home state. Now, that was Gujarat. Let's turn to Himachal now. Remember, no party has retained power in the hill state, but looking at the exit poll numbers, the BJP has a good chance at breaking that jinx. The poll of polls is giving them 36 seats out of 68. Let me repeat that. Out of 68 seats in Himachal, the poll of polls is giving the BJP 36. That is 1 seat more than the majority mark. But unlike Gujarat, this is not a clean sweep for the BJP because the Congress is projected to win somewhere around 30 seats. In fact, according to one of the exit polls, the Congress could even end up flipping Himachal Pradesh. The Aaj Tak Axis poll is projecting around 30 to 40 seats for the Congress and about 25 to 34 seats for the BJP. Unlike Gujarat, the Himachal election is actually living up to expectations. Himachal was billed as a tight two-way contest between the BJP and Congress, and if these numbers hold, the BJP may end up scraping through and retaining power. The margin may be small, but symbolically, it's going to be a big victory for them. After all, no party has retained power in Himachal Pradesh. But as things stand right now, the revolving door could be stopped on Thursday. So the BJP has done it in Uttarakhand and looks like they could repeat it in Himachal Pradesh as well. Okay, so that's Himachal, that's Gujarat, both done. Both states are proving to be a big disappointment for the Aam Aadmi Party. But there is some good news that is coming in for Arvind Kejriwal as well. The exit polls are predicting an easy-peasy victory for the Aam Aadmi Party in the MCD polls in Delhi. Out of 250 wards, the AAP is projected to win 159. That's a clean sweep. The BJP is a distant second with 83 wards. If these numbers hold on Wednesday, the BJP's 15-year rule will come to an end. The BJP had invested a lot in these local elections, as you know, even fielding union ministers to campaign for them. But the Aam Aadmi Party has campaigned on more local issues like garbage disposal and corruption. And looking at these numbers, it is clear what the real poll issues were. If the AAP does go on to win the MCD elections, they can consolidate their grip over the national capital. But the exit polls from Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh are a huge blow to Mr. Kejriwal's national dreams. There will be no repeat of Punjab and Delhi in Gujarat. Well, at least not yet. So that's how the exit poll numbers are stacked up in Himachal Pradesh, in Gujarat, and in Delhi as well. By Thursday, we will have the accurate picture from the Election Commission. Until then, let's focus on some numbers that are accurate and worrying. The voter turnout data. In Gujarat's first phase, the turnout was 63%. In the second phase, it is around 58%. Both numbers are underwhelming compared to 2017. In Himachal Pradesh, the turnout was around 75%, which you may say is good, but it was exactly the same in 2017 as well. Both these numbers are sending out the same message. Voters are simply not turning out to vote. The situation is so bad that the Election Commission had sounded a warning. They are blaming urban apathy for the falling turnout. And looking at the data, it makes absolute sense. In the first phase, all major urban centers in Gujarat recorded lower turnouts. Rajkot East, almost 5% less than 2017. Rajkot West, 10%. Surat North, 4% less than 2017. And Junagadh was almost 3% less than 2017. The second phase isn't any different despite the poll body, which is the Election Commission, coming out and asking voters to vote. Ahmedabad, the biggest urban center, has reported 52% turnout compared to the average 58%, meaning voters in urban India are pulling the numbers down. And don't think this is just a Gujarat phenomena. Himachal's voter turnout is what this time? 75%. While in Shimla, which is its biggest urban center, it was just 62%. Clearly, urban India is sending out a stern message. Either it's simply disinterested or disillusioned. What is the case? That is a question I'm going to put to my guests this evening. We have politicians, we have people who represent their cities as well, who are speaking to us on the show today. And of course, very importantly, we want to hear from you. So our numbers are currently on your screens. Do call us if you have a view on the issue. We want to know why urban India simply decides to sleep in on a voting day and not show up at the polling booth. Is this disappointment? Or is this simple disinterest, apathy? Shweta Paul, you're spokesperson of the Congress Party. You're joining us on the broadcast. Shweta Shalini is spokesperson of the BJP. Kailash Adhikari is MD Governance Now. And Jagdeep Chokar is co-founder of ADIA. Dr. Sudhir Mehta is chairperson, MD Pinnacle Industries. Dr. Mehta, can I start with you? As a citizen voice, could you help me understand why most people in urban India decide that the day you're supposed to cast your vote and you have chutti is the day you need to sleep in and have a late breakfast and probably watch a movie on Netflix, but not come out and vote? The numbers are telling us that. It's a dangerous trend, and we'll come to why it's a dangerous trend for India's democracy. But why do you think that's happening? Where is the urban Indian voter?
I think one very important point all of us have to keep in mind, and something I always say, that our country is really too important to be left to only the politicians and bureaucrats. And I think as citizens, unless we take this to heart, things are not going to change. Having said that, I think these trends are very, very worrying. Personally, I think it's coming from a combination of factors. The first and foremost is that I think the difference between local elections and national elections is slightly getting blurred. Most of the parties are fighting elections based on national issues, and really it's the national leadership which is at the forefront, even for local elections. Up to a certain point, it used to be that the local candidates would have a very strong connect with the electorate and they would be meeting them frequently. Generally, elections now are fought on, despite the fact that these are local elections, state elections, they are fought on national level. And I think this is where one of the disconnects is happening. Secondly, I think as citizens, we are also failing to recognize that if we have rights, then we must also have duties. And as citizens, if we want to have rights of that we want to exercise, then it's our duty to go out and vote. And simply, especially amongst the urban population, part of the reason may be that there are people who are migrating across cities, but that doesn't give a justification for this. There is clearly a phenomenon that people are just not going out to vote, even despite the fact that the Indian electoral system is actually very, very sophisticated. It's very easy to go out and vote. It takes less than half an hour. It's something that every citizen should be doing. So certainly you're right. It's a question of great concern.
It is a question of great concern, and I'll tell you why it's a question of great concern before I go to our other guests. If urban India isn't voting, it is a dangerous trend for Indian democracy. Why? Because more and more Indians are now living in cities. Let me pull up the numbers for you. There they are on your screens. In 2020, around 35% of India's population was living in urban centers. By 2035, that number could reach 43.2%, which means more than 62 crore Indians could be living in cities in the next decade, in the next 10 years. Their issues, their concerns, and their expectations will be key to India's politics and therefore its election. But if they begin losing interest in democracy, in the electoral process, we are in big trouble. We need urban centers to take more interest in politics. That means educating students on the importance of voting, teaching them about how our political system works, and sensitizing them to important social issues as well. Can I come to the politicians here? Sujata Paul, you're spokesperson of the Congress party. Is it a phenomena that worries political parties? I know political parties are just, the only thing they worry about is losing or winning. And I understand that. When you're fighting an election, you need to worry about winning or losing. But the fact is that there is a big worry about urban India simply not showing up to vote. And
Yes,
it could be a dangerous,
Shreya,
and it is a very dangerous trend because more and more people are coming to urban centers to live now. Look at the migration patterns.
Shreya, at the outset, I must make it very clear that the Congress Party is always encouraging people to vote, and we are going to be worried if people don't vote. And it's not only about winning and losing for us, and we are questioned for that time and again. For us, it has been very important. And if you look at from 1947 to now, we have made sure that people are educated, and we have come to a stage where people had started to come out to vote. Now, when people are moving into the urban areas and not voting, the responsibility is of also the election commission and also the government which is in place, because when you are talking about voter turnout, it is the government which is responsible for providing every resource to the election commission and to its officers to make sure that people are educated and made aware, because this dangerous trend also means that the educated voter is not is probably disillusioned by things that are happening around them. And when you talk about the rural areas, the pictures that you're showing, they are so heartening because there are old people who come out to vote. They consider it a responsibility of theirs, and that is what is so important. When people realize that it is not about communal politics but about the real issues, people will come out and vote. And of course, the government will want, the present government has always wanted to divide people. And I feel that somewhere along the line, people have to come out, and it is, people, you and I, people in the media, the social activists, we need to educate people so that they understand that voting power that they have, that one single vote, is so important for democracy to exist and for democracy to stay. Because
Sujata Paul, we all know that. We
No,
all
but
know
that's
that,
what I'm
Sujata
saying.
Paul. But there is a failing in India's political. Just a minute. There is a lack of faith in India's politics and politicians that young people or urban voters are not coming to vote out. And when you say the BJP is trying to divide, etc., let's not forget that in 2014, Prime Minister Modi, who was not the Prime Minister then, had made a specific push in that election, if I remember clearly, and Kailash Adhikari will back me on this, specific push to push out people from urban areas who had stayed at home in 2009 to come out and vote in 2014, and that had happened. Kailash Adhikari, then what explains this dip all across India? Now, today is the Gujarat and, Himachal election, so we are talking about that. We are talking about the MCD election, Delhi, all urban, only 50% voting percentage. But what explains this?
Factors behind it. Firstly, if you talk about the urban India, they are more into convenience now. The entire idea of standing in the line, putting the ballot box there has to be revisited. And some time ago, if and I was on your sister channel only to debate this, wherein the certain comments were made or suggestions were introduced by the Election Commission, which are yet to be ratified. But yes, one of the suggestions was that people should be given the power to be, because see, now the government has pushed on digital India. Now there are payments can be made digital. RBI is introducing e-rupee. So now life is all about convenience, especially for the urban India. So if there is a system where I can log in through a QR code, if I have a voter ID card, and if I can, log in my vote digitally, it will really help. That will really help. It is not that the urban educated voters, they don't understand the importance of democracy or they don't understand the importance of their vote. In today's time, yes, there was a time 15, 20, 10, 15 years down the line where...
Kailash Adhikari, I understand the point you're making. I understand the point you're making because this is a debate that is raging all across the world, digital vote, etc. But one day for 45 minutes, you have to step out and do your democratic duty. And for that one day, you don't want to do it and you're telling me ki QR code aa jaye, digital vote aa jaye, voting percentage will go up. Of course
that
it will
is
go
because
up.
that's why, I started by saying that urban India needs convenience. No, you can't just say that one day and 45 minutes. It matters to them. It matters to them. And if that is the state, then we have to put in a lot more effort in making them understand. And if that effort is not put, then actually we have to supply them on platter.
You spend
Nowadays, people are at their comfort.
Okay, no, I understand the point you're making, but you spend 45 minutes on a phone call.
But that, they are...
Yeah, okay, let me get in. Sujata, give me a minute. I have two callers.
Not yielding results. People have stopped going to the theatre for entertainment. This is for just pure entertainment. Everything is on their click.
You make an important point. You're saying it's disillusionment. It's not disinterest. You're saying it's disillusionment that is keeping it away. That's the point I was trying to get at. Shweta Shalini is smiling, but I will come to Shweta Shalini after I've gone to two callers at least. So let me go to Sudarshan, who's calling us from Bangalore. Sudarshan, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, ma'am. See, first of all, I do not accept the EC's word as urban apathy.
Okay.
Hello.
Sudarshan, I can't hear you anymore. Huh?
Ma'am, I'm able to, are you able to hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Hello?
I can. Now, please go ahead and make your point, please.
Ma'am, first of all, EV calling urban apathy will not accept. The main reason is the election commission. Why they're not getting this Aadhaar getting connected? Why Aadhaar has not been synchronized with the voter ID? Because a lot of urban people working in urban area, their voters of either the rural area or the urban area. Both they'll be having identity cards. Will you accept or not? When they have duplicate
we leave it there. NV Chandrasekharan. Okay, I understand that. NV Chandrasekharan, please go ahead. You're calling us from Chennai.
Yeah, hello, good evening all. I just make a point very briefly. Since none of you are mentioning that, I thought I'll chip in with my view. It is not urban apathy. It is not this or that. Urban people are quite conscious of what is happening in the politics. You have to make it easy for them, that's all. Please ensure that online voting. People spend lakh of rupees using credit cards and successfully finish a transaction. Can't we just cast a vote by having an OTP or whatever you call that, either voter ID or Aadhaar as the gentleman mentioned, or anything you like? I must be able to vote online. Please do that. That is the priority and nobody is talking about it. Okay, I made my point. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chandrasekharan, for joining us. I'm just going to repeat this by continuing to give you snippets from what has happened across India in urban centers. If you just look at the 2019 elections in Pune that had happened, 10 urban centers, the voter turnout was as low as 50%, 49 point something percent, and Pimpri was the only exception. So it's not just Bangalore or Delhi where we have seen just a 50% voter turnout as far as MCD elections are concerned. As we go to more callers, I want to get in Shweta Shalini. Shweta Shalini, two callers have said the same thing as Kailash Adhikari has said. Make it easy for the voter. Why should you make it easy for the voter?
No, just to answer that question, why should you not make it easier for the voter? Because ultimately, voter is the king, right? This is a democracy because people step out to vote. So, of course, I stand by the fact that we are going towards a digital India and we must make it easier. We must make it convenient because it is important for every person to engage. political disengagement is extremely wrong. But having said that, let us understand a couple of things here. Now, if you actually look at the urban voters, who are these urban voters? Now, if you split it up between the poor, the middle class, the upper middle class, and the upper class, you will see that the least turnout is from the urban sector, the poor urban. And these are the people who are like daily wage workers. Now, it is extremely important that the SMEs, the corporates, they give an off, not for a half day, but actually the entire full day, and to ensure. And this is the reason why it is important to get practices in civil society, which is driven by the civil society, because this cannot be a law. The owner of an SME needs to ensure that if you need to have the salary this month, you need to go out and vote. Now, we need a civil society driven initiative in this format. Second, and the most important thing, with political disengagement, what gets affected the most. Now, you have a gentleman from ADR. If you actually ask the research agencies, large voter turnout is usually for change. So if you actually look at Gujarat or in Himachal, there's hardly any change happening. So they are very happy, and hence you will see a lot of people, because they do not want to change, they do not want to step out to vote. Now, this is where the voter needs to be educated to make them understand whether it is change or no. They need to step out to vote, because that is a responsibility which comes with right in a democracy. And hence, for you to go out and fulfill your responsibility, you need to take out that time and step out. Last but not the least, I personally feel
Jagdeep
that
Chokar
if you actually...
Jagdeep Chokar is smiling, and I think he wants to say something. But Mr. Chokar, before you say anything, we should get the citizens' voice in. I'm sure you'll agree. So let me quickly go to Osama Aziz, who's calling us from Lucknow, I believe. Mr. Aziz, please go ahead.
Good evening, ma'am. Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Good evening to all of the learned panel. Respected learned ma'am, one of the humble submission is this, that prima facie, it is clear that when urban voters are not responding, so prima facie, it is evident that the public does not have the faith. People do not have the faith on the government. So what should be decided on the faith as per mandate of law? When we do not have the faith on the government, on either of the parties, then what? And as per words that people should be educated, no. This is not enough. People are much educated. People have much enough in today's era. They have. So what is to be done? What is to be done in as per presidential rule? Why it is scared for that? Only this much.
Okay. I didn't understand the last part of your argument, but thank you very much. Ramesh Swaminathan, you're calling us from Hyderabad. Please go ahead, please.
Good evening. This is not apathy towards voting. The reason is that people have totally lost faith in the system itself. I spoke to many young people. They say that if I'm staying in urban area, do I get a facility of water, transportation, pollution-free air? No government talks anything about that. Always you talk about nationalism, this, that, religion. Why should I come and vote for this? All this I know it. I'm a nationalist. They say like, I love my country, so why should I go and exhibit that I'm loving my country? So unless you do something and have a concrete policy to do something for me, why should I come and vote for you? And neither the municipality does anything, or the state government does anything, or the central government does anything. So why should I come and vote? You tell me, why should I come and vote? You are telling, why are you voting? You say, why should I come and vote if I don't get anything?
Okay, good point. Vignesh, you're calling us from Gujarat, election-bound Gujarat. Please go ahead.
Yeah, what these panelists are talking about is contributing towards the votes and coming out and voting. It's actually a great disillusion. If you look at the urban class that is going to come out to vote, what is the percentage of the population? It's hardly 4 or 5%. And who are these voters who decide? The government. They are all people who are from the lower income group who are bought. Just before elections, they are rallied by packing them into buses and trucks. being paid, plenty of booze, plenty of food, and they are asked to vote for a particular party. Now, today in a democracy like India, I am sure you will also agree with me, whether it is Congress, BJP, Aam Aadmi or Falana Dikana, they are all the same. Like, long time back, Winston Churchill said, politics is the last resort of the scoundrel. Underline the word scoundrel, please. And today, the urban voter is totally disgusted. Okay. So, I know you're having a hearty laugh because it's a fact. It's not educated but unconnected. It is educated but disgusted. Okay, please take note of this. Thank you. Yeah, bye. Have a great day.
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you. Thank you for adding a touch of humor to our discussion this evening. Jagdeep Chokar, you've heard all the citizens, and it's interesting we get 2 points of views. One set of people is saying, we are simply not interested because you're not talking about our issues. You're not talking about urban issues. आप तो national issues बड़ी पाकिस्तान, China की बात करते रहते हैं. So why, you're not talking about मेरे घर के सामने का नाला और सड़क. Then why should I be interested in coming out and voting for you? Because I know, irrespective of who I vote for, whether I vote or not, nothing is going to change for me. And the second is, what they say is disillusionment. To that, we have Shweta Shalini, who's added another interesting point to say कि सबको पता ही है कौन जीतने वाला है, जीतेगा तो मोदी ही. So why even bother, right? Where just put everything that you've heard so far with the experiences you've had as a research agency and help us understand where the mystery lies of the missing urban voter.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is now 8:30. And I was told this show is from 8 to 8:30. You are coming to me at 8:30 and wanted me to tell you what my experience and my understanding is about the so-called urban voter apathy. I am sorry, this is not enough time. And I must say I have nothing to add to what has been said. So I will only say thank you very much. Wish I had more time.
Mr. Chokar, I have 15 more minutes in case you want to make a point. I was hoping you wouldn't be upset with me taking citizen voices.
And if you are willing to listen to me, I would be more than happy to share my views. And my views are threefold.
Please go ahead.
Number one, urban voters are not a monolith. Urban India consists of poor people, middle income people, and high income people. So you cannot say that there are urban voters have an apathy. Some urban voters have and some do not. Number two, in a large majority of cases, these so-called people who don't have apathy, there are two kinds of people in this country who take advantage of the existing system and who suffer from the existing system. Those who take advantage from the existing system, who know how to manipulate the system, they do not go to vote because they don't care who the government is. They will get their job done irrespective of who's in power. It is only those who cannot manage the system, they try and use this power of voting once in 5 years. And this is why the so-called rural and the so-called urban poor vote more often. And number three, the entire electoral process is not really based on the power of the people. It is based on the power of political parties. It is not the people who have a say in deciding who should be the candidate. The political parties decide who will be the candidate, and a voter has to vote for one of the people chosen by the political parties. So if the voter thinks that she or he has no contribution to make, I don't blame them. On the other hand, every person who has spoken so far amongst the panelists, I am not talking of the callers that you listen to, as everybody has put the blame on somebody else. Yes, urban voters should have the chance to vote from home, from the comfort of their homes. But if everybody has to do online voting, there are people in this country who do not have access to the internet. And even if they have access to the internet, there is no electricity to charge their phones. So to look at urban India as a mirror of democracy, I think is wrong. India lives in villages. If urban India is apathetic, let them be apathetic. Urban India believes in not going out to vote. Why can't people stand in line for 15 minutes and they want to vote from the comfort of their homes? This is absolutely unimaginable for me.
I agree with you.
And I live in an urban area. I go to vote in an urban area. You don't even have to wait for 15 minutes. But people want to take off a long weekend and so on and so forth. And then they say they should be allowed to vote online. The kind of, and somebody suggested, why is Aadhaar card not linked with the voter ID? That is one of the bigger scams floating around. Aadhaar card has so many problems with it that if you link it with the voter ID will also become utterly useless and fraudulent. So there are, these are simple armchair solutions which are not going to work. People have a responsibility, and the urban voters have as much of a responsibility as a rural voter and a poor voter. They must go and stand in line and exercise their franchise. If they want that they must be able to vote from the comfort of their homes, I am afraid they don't want to contribute to democracy. They only want to eat or avail of the fruits of democracy. Urban India has to learn to become an equal partner in the democracy in this country, along with rural India. They are not a privileged lot. And when
you say, Mr. Chokar, that India lives in its villages, please let us look at the numbers. 35% of India's population is living in urban centers. This is data till 2020. By 2035, that number will reach 4.3.2%, 43.2%, and maybe by 2040, that number will be 50%. So, in the next 10, 15 years, 50% of this country will be living in urban centers, which makes it important. I know you've made that distinction. I know you say that urban voters are not a monolith. I understand that. But if a large portion of people living in urban India are deciding not to vote for whatever reason, there is a problem there. Can I quickly take in a citizen voice again? We have Ranbir who's calling us from Delhi. Ranbir, please go ahead.
The basic reason.
Yeah, go ahead, Ranbir. I can hear you.
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. The basic reason why the urban voter is not interested is primarily he had faith in the legislature, in the judiciary, and the executive who have let him down. You name a place, they have been let down by each one of them. The judiciary doesn't perform. The executive, we know the situation. The legislature, we know the situation. What do you expect? The only thing the urban voter is getting today are the bills and the taxes which are taken by the system. What does he get in return? That is the reason for his disillusionment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Sudhir Mehta, who's letting whom down? If our executive and our politicians and our political system is letting down the urban voter in turn is letting down the country.
You're right, Shreya. I want to make one quick point on this online voting that was discussed in great length. I think that's fraught with a lot of danger. Elections are supposed to be free and fair, which is the reason why the elections are held in a private place where somebody is able to vote. I think the moment you make it online, and if you don't have the required safeguards, you are running into lots of problems. And as I think several speakers said, it only takes a few minutes to vote. So personally, I don't think online voting is ready for something which is very secure at the moment. Now, coming to your point, I think we are trying to find solutions after the elections. This has to be a process. And this process has to start with all of civic society really coming together. We have an enormous number of NGOs who work on various issues. I think at some point, the Election Commission, the government has to involve them. This has to be something which, as you said, starts from the educational institutions. There have to be mock elections held. There has to be a system where people feel that it is as important for them to be part of the system. And we're not going to be able to change this in a few months, but certainly over a period of time, we will start to see that these go up. Now, This is also different at different points. If you see the same elections, the swings in votes vary from 5 to 10%, which is a very wide range in terms of people who come out to vote. So it's probably something that we all have to work at. And I think civil society is as much to blame as the politicians or any of the other people. I think it's our responsibility to vote as a country. If we don't figure this out, we are never going to get out of always complaining that ultimately we get the leaders that we elect. And if we don't change that, then the problem is as much ours.
And if you want your right to complain, then you have to perform your duty of going to a polling booth, standing in line and casting your vote, irrespective of whether you are disinterested or disillusioned. I'm completely out of time, but Sujata Paul, I can give you 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Yes. The problem is that people need to understand that it is their responsibility, but there is another aspect to it. When there is a government which wants to hijack every system, people will be disillusioned as well. But that is no excuse. People's names disappear from voting lists. So we need a person like Mr. T.N. Seshan. God knows when we'll have him, and when civil society and everybody will get together to educate and make people aware that voting is a responsibility no matter what. Holiday or no holiday, you have to go and vote. And that should be mandatory.
We live, can it be made mandatory? And if it does, what a bawal that will be. But can voting be made mandatory in this country? Again, that comes with its own set of risks and criticism and controversy. Okay, Shalini ji, how can I not give the BJP 10 seconds? Go ahead, only 10 seconds. Huh? I have another debate from Iran coming up, so please go ahead.
I don't need 10 seconds, I need 5 seconds. I'm so surprised that Sujata ji is not talking about the EVM even after the exit poll. So thank you so much, Sujata ji, and thank you so much, Shreya ji.
I think you can talk about it.
Okay, chaliye. The idea was not to make this political, but we leave it there. Shweta Shalini, Kailash Adhikari, Jagdeep Chokar, Dr. Sudhir Mehta. Good to have your views in and good to listen to what citizens are saying as well. I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. On the other side, we are telling you why women in Iran continue to protest despite reports that the morality police has been scrapped by the Ayatollah regime. Has it? Is it a PR stunt? Is it a genuine attempt at reforms? If it is, why are Iranian women looking at it with some degree of distrust? That's coming up in just a bit. Do stay with us. Important voices from Iran joining us on the show as well.